Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. If you follow me on social media, then you know I'm a big fan of training the grip and the elbows. Today I'm going to walk you through 3 exercises to improve medial and lateral elbow pain. Before we get started, I just want to let you guys know that I actually chipped a bone off in my elbow during freestyle wrestling practice. As you can see, I really struggle just trying to get full extension and full flexion here. I had a medial slight dislocation during a wrestling exchange where I had a collar tie on my opponent, and I went for a snap down, and as I pulled my opponent's head down, instead of them reacting, they came forward and my arm just bent back into obviously going past its range of motion and just went through a heap of flexion where I ended up dislocating the medial part or the medial tendon in my elbow there. That led to me chipping off the bone. So guys, today we're working through 3 exercises, and the biggest problem that I see in most programs that I actually look at in terms of just S&C for combat sports, or even if you don't take part in a combat sport, is no one's really training the lower hanging fruit. What I mean by that is like your hands, first point of contact. The distal structures of your body, like your hands and elbows, are going to be exposed to a lot of repetitive forces just in general life and within combat sports as well. So guys, the first exercise we're going to work on is a pinch plate carry, or just an ISO hold, whatever you want to call it. There's not much to this exercise. It's fairly simple to execute. Now, before we get started, I just want to show you on what not to do. I see this a lot on social media where people will grab the plate like this, where they use like a claw grip. I mean, there's nothing too wrong with that, but it kind of defeats the purpose of really using all your fingers across the plate. That's kind of where the magic is, and that's where we really get some of those flexors that run across the elbow joint working really hard. And this is going to provide like a nice therapeutic effect just to set up the tone before we crack into more advanced exercises. Now, training your hands are the first point of contact. It's the most distal structure to the elbow. It's going to be the least aggressive, and it will not poke the bear. And I can guarantee you, when you have a sore elbow, you're going to want to, obviously you're going to avoid wanting to use your hands and use that arm because your elbow hurts. And this is a great introduction to just starting with something that's not too invasive or it is really going to piss off the elbow. Now, when you do this, you definitely want to take it close to failure. You can use a bumper plate, or you can get fancy with it and you can grab the top of a dumbbell here. Now, as you can see, my grip is a lot wider now, which means it's going to place a different kind of stress, a bigger stress on my hands here and a bit more on the extensors as well. All right guys, moving on to exercise number 2. We're now going to work our way upstream. So we've just started at the hands, we're now going to work at the wrists. We're going to be training the wrist flexors and extensors. Now, this exercise is fantastic for anyone who doesn't have access to a wrist roller. As you can see, I've got a band looped around a barbell here, and then it's looped around the kettlebell at the bottom. Thanks to the cameraman who's actually taught me an easier way of setting this up. I used to struggle setting this up, and the way that I was doing it was backwards. So fairly easy way of doing this is to loop it around as such, and then all you're going to do is pop the kettlebell through this band here, and you have a double loop on each end in order to let that kettlebell hang. You would have seen me perform this exercise on social media a number of times. I do receive a lot of questions of how to actually set this up, and this is the easiest way of doing it, thanks to the cameraman. Okay, so moving into this exercise, before we get started, it's important to note that we have a counterbalance weight on the other side. We've got a 10 kilo plate there, and I think you probably wouldn't need much more than a 10 or a 20 kilo plate to stop the barbell from moving off the rack. Now, to initiate this exercise, all I'm going to do is just grab it with both hands. I've got hand on either side of the band. I'm going to start training the extensors first. So I'm going to actually just flex one arm and pull my knuckles towards my face, which is going to work my extensors. I'm just going to repeat that process, and that band is going to loop itself around the barbell, and I'm just going to continue repping this out, getting a nice contraction across the extensors. Now, on the way down, I'm just gonna let it slide between my hands. And to work the flexors, we're just gonna move in the opposite direction. I'm going to turn my knuckles away from my body, and this is going to work the flexors here. That's gonna go across the medial part of the elbow joint. I'm just gonna do the same thing. I'm gonna work this up all the way till I get to the top, and then let that slide between my hands. So this is quite therapeutic because we want to train the forearms. We want to chase a nice pump in the forearms, and this is not going to poke the bear either because you're not getting a lot of direct work around the elbow joint. So training the extensors, it's going to feel really nice on the lateral part of the elbow, and then training the flexors, it's going to feel really nice across the medial part of the elbow. Okay guys, moving on to exercise number 3. We're now going to be working pronation and supination at the elbow. Not too long ago, I put up a social media post on how to just work supination. Today, we're actually going to show you how to put it all together. So think about this. When I'm actually supinating the elbow, right, we want to make sure that we're training the elbow joint to be able to rotate effectively. When I'm supinating, think of this as external rotation, as the joint moving or the thumb moving away from the body. That's going to put a fair amount of stress, or it's going to be a great way to actually alleviate some of your golfer's elbow issues. And then if I'm turning the thumb in towards the body where I'm working pronation, that's going to target more of your lateral epicondyle or your tennis elbow issues here. Now, I've got a sledgehammer to start with. Now, obviously, if this is too heavy for you, you can always use a broomstick here. All right, even in just a mop handle or a broomstick, it doesn't really matter. Something that gives you a bit of a counterbalance to allow rotation to take place at the elbow. So got a sledgehammer here. What I want to do is I want to make sure that my elbow is close to my rib cage. I've got a 90-degree angle at the elbow joint, and I've got my wrist in a neutral position. So I'm going to start with external rotation. I'm going to supinate at the elbow joint first. So I'm going to let that sledgehammer do its job, and I'm going to eccentrically load very slowly into an end range position, where I'm going to feel a nice bit of stress on the medial part of my elbow. Then I'm going to contract, come back up into my starting position, and then move the elbow into pronation, where I'm going to feel a nice contraction on the lateral part of the elbow. I just want to repeat this process without overemphasizing my whole body coming along for the ride. So we want to make sure that we're honest with the weight that we're using, and we want to probably be a little bit more conservative so that we can actually really get a decent amount of relative range of motion at the elbow joint. So guys, just to recap on what we went through today, I would personally recommend doing these exercises a little bit more frequently than what you're used to. I would recommend 3 to 4 sessions per week of this exact sequence. You can run it in a tri-set, or you can do it in straight sets, whatever works for you depending on time. So the first exercise we went through, I'm not going to give you a rep scheme on the exact nuances of the exercises, because I want you to take it close to failure on every single exercise and set. Now, this is going to vary depending on your capacity, on what you can currently deal with. But with the pinch grip iso holds, we're training the most distal structure to the elbow. I want you to take that close to failure on every single set. Same thing with the wrist flexors and extensors. I want you to chase a pump. I want you to get a lot of blood around that elbow joint. And then the same thing with pronation and supination. I want you to chase a pump there as well and take it close to failure. And that brings us to the end, guys. I really hope you enjoyed this sequence. Please let me know if you've tried this sequence and you've gotten some great results. Drop it in the comments below. I'm just experimenting at the moment with some new content and just different ways of actually how to present it, as I am new to YouTube. So if you guys got anything that you want to see in regards of content, or any tips or anything like that you can probably help me out with, please pop them in the comments below, and yeah, let me know your thoughts.